So what if he hunts? He wants to take away your guns. What kind of friendly guy castrates 6-year-olds? Coach Walls, where are the tampons? I don't think football coaches stock tampons in the boys' locker rooms. Tampon Tim spent his honeymoon in China, which Chinese intelligence paid for. More on that later in the show. Waltz is a hoax. He's not middle-of-the-road, moderate, all-American dad. This is who he says he is.
Governor Waltz, are you a progressive or are you a centrist?
I'm a progressive.
Trump's running against a woke woman and a progressive VP named Tampon Tim, who deserted his army unit and lied about his rank. Minnesota Nuts is such a control freak, well, maybe he learned it the 30 times he went to China. He doesn't think the First Amendment guarantees free speech. Watch this.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
It makes perfect sense why set up COVID snitch lines during lockdowns so you can rat your neighbor out for walking his dog. Timmy's the kind of neighbor who calls the cops if your music's too loud. He didn't protect Minneapolis when it was barbecued by Black Lives Matter, because I have friends in Minneapolis who were terrified that their homes were going to be invaded. They had kids at home, fires burning all night long. You guys text us every night from Minnesota, telling us you had to move out, and most of you went to Florida. The media has inflated this guy's resume like he inflated his own. Waltz never went to war. He never saw combat. He was never in a war zone. But for years, he's been claiming otherwise.
I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. We can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states. And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Waltz never carried weapons in war. He's lying. And he's been giving reporters the impression that he's been a combat vet for years. Bloomberg putting out a piece saying Waltz served, quote, in Iraq as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. Waltz never went to Iraq. And Bloomberg had to retract it. Waltz put out a campaign press release claiming he was a veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom, claiming he served on the ground in Afghanistan. He never served in Afghanistan. Waltz told The Atlantic he just returned from fighting in the war on terrorism. Waltz never fought anywhere. He abandoned his unit, left his battalion hanging right before he was supposed to deploy to Iraq.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, this guy quit. If I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then the foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory? He was a congressman. He bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this lie that he was telling. And there was lots of public, lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in. Stolen valor is really what it is. I don't know of anybody else that's done what he's done. But we called it the truth about Tim Walz.
Walz ditched his unit, got demoted, lied about his rank, and lied about fighting overseas. And Kamala Harris chose him to be a heartbeat away from commander-in-chief. This is devastating to the Democrat ticket. Republicans and Democrats, every American, physically revolted by men who lie about their service. Did Kamala vet the so-called vet? It's the only decision she's ever made in the last 4 years, and she chose a Chinese honeymooning, army unit abandoning, child castrating, defund the police progressive with the nickname Tampon Tim.